Hello and welcome to Why I Let's Knit, my very first podcast. My name's Julie and I'm coming to you from a very wet Suffolk day here. I'm originally from the northeast of England. I moved down here nearly 28 years ago, and when I first moved down here everybody used to say why I man to me and do I support Newcastle and do I know Jimmy Nail? So no, I don't know Jimmy Nail. No, I don't support Newcastle, and I do sometimes say Way I, so I thought I'd call this podcast Way I Let's Knit. It's homage to my northern roots, which I still have a strong tie to, because parents and sisters, cousins, aunts and uncles all still live up there, and I get up there quite often. So this podcast is going to be all about knitting, with a tiny little bit of sewing, because I do quilt, and a little bit of crafting, but on the whole it's going to be about knitting, and what I like to knit and what I've got on the needles and what I've more often than not pulled off the needles. But I thought I would start with a bit about my background. I run Suffolk Socks, which is an online yarn shop selling sock yarn, and I started to knit socks about 20 years ago. How I came upon knitting socks was I used to own a bricks and mortar yarn shop in the town of Ipswich, and then I used to get a lot of I thought they were old ladies, but really on reflection now they're probably my age, so like 52, which I don't think's old at all, but when they used to come in now, it's just in my late 20s, early 30s. I used to think they were decrepit. Anyway, they used to come in and ask for sock yarn, and I used to think, who on earth is going to knit socks? Couldn't understand it, but the sock yarn used to fly off the shelves. And in those days, you couldn't get the regular or the commercial yarns you can get now, and the indie dyed yarn hadn't even hit the shelves. So it was all patterns, browns and greys and what have you. So one day I decided to give sock knitting a bash. So off I went back up home with me DPNs and a ball of sock yarn, and cast a pair on, and I was like thinking, trying to categorise people who would wear hand knit socks, and I was like thinking, who on earth is going to knit socks? And I thought, I know, my friend Karen, her husband's a fisherman, he'll wear hand knit socks, because when he goes fishing, you must get cold feet when you go fishing. How ignorant. Anyway, I knit him these socks for Christmas, and honestly I can only liken them to a surgical stocking. But we got them on with a shoehorn, and I don't know if he ever wore them, but I've never heard anything about them. But he was very grateful for them, and I was hooked. And since then I've had a pair of socks on the needles forever. And then Opal made an appearance in the UK, and then there was no turning back then, and over the years it's just progressed, and my shop closed due to childcare problems. Well, there weren't problems, I just decided that my kids were too old to start going to childminders and after school clubs, and I decided just to close my shop when the lease ran out, because the council were putting far more restrictions on my lease and what have you, so it was a good time to close it. Anyway, I kept knitting, and I've always knit, and it's always been on the back burner, this dream of me having a shop. So a few years ago I happened to be up in Holy Island with my husband, and it transpired that behind my back, him and my daughter, because we all work together, my husband manages e-commerce sites for retailers, so he's quite expertise in putting shops online and stuff like that, and helping them to manage their sites and what have you, and their platforms. And unbeknown to me, him and my daughter had sorted me out with a platform, a site and what have you, and my daughter's an illustrator, so she'd done all my logos and what have you, and my son's an IT teacher, so they'd all had a hand in this, and all I had to do was say yes or no. Now, originally, the plan was they thought that I would call my shop Spare Moments, which is the name I own from my bricks and mortar shop. And but to do that, it would mean I would have to have large quantities of commercial yarn for to knit garments and stuff, and I didn't really want to go down that line, because in Ipswich we have a very lovely independent yarn shop that I go to all the time. I'm reasonably friendly with the owner. We'll have knit groups there and it's lovely. So I didn't want to encroach on that bit, but I love knitting socks, and this was where Suffolk Socks came about, where I would just sell yarn, commercial and indie dyed yarn, to provide sock yarn, provide yarn for knitting socks, hence why we've got Suffolk Socks. So behind me in this wall is all my boxes, airtight, well, all boxes with all my wool in, but you don't need to see that because you can see that on the site. So that's how I've come to be Suffolk Socks, and it's a very small online business which I love. I've met and made the best friends ever through this shop. People who I would never have come into contact with. And it's given me the confidence to go out and meet people. I am quite outgoing, but I think I would label myself as a bit of an introverted extrovert. And I love being at home, and I'm quite happy being at home, not seeing a soul for days and days and days. And but then when I go out, I love that as well. So that's me and my knitting. My other favourite subject in my life are my family. I'll make no apologies now. There will be little snippets of news about them. They are my most favourite subject, my family. I love them to bits. And now I'm a grandma. Oh, goodness me, I love being a grandma. So, yes. So I thought, let's get on to my whips. And I've been very good this week. I have pulled out, or frogged, or whatever is the official term. I've pulled out all the whips that I haven't touched for about a fortnight, 3 weeks, that weren't going anywhere, that when I picked the project bag up, I was thinking, oh, I've got to knit that now. And the biggest project I pulled out was my Madewell cardigan, and it was beautiful. The pattern was lovely, the wool was beautiful, but you know, I started the rib and there was nearly 400 stitches on there, and I was like, oh God. And then I had to knit the bands while I was losing the will to live. And because it came down here, you know, and I'm not lacking in the front department, I didn't want to draw any attention to that. So I thought, oh, I'm just going to pull it out. I've got loads of other patterns in my library. I'm just going to pull it out and put the yarn away. And that's it. Put a full stop at it. So I quickly pulled it off the needles and wound it up, sealed it up with a lavender bag in a storage bag, and popped it up on my cupboard. And that's my stash just on top of that cupboard. Oh, I'm not very good at this. There, in the cabled looking boxes. So it's in there. The other thing I pulled out was my Inishmeen, which was from the Fibre Company, and it was the lovely Aran wool. And I just decided this wool, you know, was not inexpensive. You know, it wasn't cheap. And it was fairly, yeah, it was quite a buy. And I just thought, you know, I had to absolutely love what I was knitting to benefit from this wool. So that came out as well. That got pulled out and put away. And then what I really wanted to knit, I've been after for ages is, I have brought it up, is a pattern that was in Eden Cottage Yarns Drift book. I don't even know. I got this about 2 years ago at, I can't even remember the name of it, isn't that awful? I got this about 2 years ago when I was at, what do you call that place? Oh, Yarndale, that was it. And it's just a plain round neck, that's it, Cloudburst. I'm sorry. Cloudburst. And it's by, well, you can look it up because I'll just butcher that name. But I've decided to knit it in the Dovestone from Bar-Am-Yew. And the other thing I was desperate to include was some of my hand spun wool. Now, I don't spin very often. I wouldn't lay claim to being an expert at all, but I get by. I would never dare knit anybody anything with it in case it all fell to bits. But this is some alpaca that I got from the Border Mills. I think it's the Border Mills. And I got 4 bats. I think that's what you call them. There was a lilac, a pale blue, a yellow and a pink. And I just did them all together. And I'm just putting a line of each in. I don't think I'll have enough to even do it all the way throughout. Well, I know I'll not, but I'm just going to do it so that the yolk's got a breakup of colour, because it's a dark charcoaly grey blue. Oh, but I'm really excited about this, and it's a double knit, so it's knitting up really quickly. I like this Dove Stone yarn. I knit a Rennie Callahan cardigan that was Angelus Novus, and it was in a deep claret burgundy colour, and it was lovely. But, you know, I don't do dark, bright colours very well. So, and my mum came down at the weekend, and she's lovely and dark-haired and what have you, so she went back with it. So that's the only thing that I've got on the needles, jumper-wise. But, I just started this yesterday, and I've been doing it. I've had our car battery went on our car on Tuesday, and because we don't use our car very often, we live right slap bang in the centre of town, so we don't have off-road parking. So we do have a garage, but we don't really park there, because it means my husband, if he decides to go out on his motorbikes, he can't get his motorbikes out very quickly. So we just park on the street. So sometimes, if, I'm not saying who could have done it, but I'm not denying it either. Anyway, the battery was flat, and the RAC this morning thought that the interior light had been left on. And yes, it probably was me. But, I had to stand in the cold and wait with the RAC dog. Anyway, he said I had to go for a run in the car for about an hour. So what I did was I drove up to an out of town to a little village, and I parked in the community car park, like for the playing area. Oh, I felt really seedy, because when I go by and I see these cars parked with people sitting in them, I often think, what the hell are they doing? But actually all I was doing was knitting on me jumper, listening to a podcast. And then I kept thinking, they often find people murdered. What happens if somebody comes and tries to shoot me? Not that I'm paranoid or anything, but anyway, so I sat there for an hour knitting, and it was lovely. I had the heating on, the engine running, and nobody shot us. Nobody knocked on my window to see what I was doing. So I got that done. I came home and thought, no, Phoebe's just gone out to meet a friend for coffee, and I thought, right, that's it. Let's get my podcast done. So that's the main thing on my needles. The other things I have, and this really, I don't consider this stash. This is a bag I made ages ago. I sold these when I was at Yarndale. They were really popular, but I love this material, and I thought, no, this is the one for me, because I've got a caravan, and I love my caravan. We don't go away in it as often as we used to, but I love my caravan, because I go into melamine heaven. My melamine has to match, and I've got a lovely, I have to have a proper glass. I can't drink out of a Tupperware tub with my wine, and I've got a proper teacup up there. Anyway, in this bag is all my granddaughter's knits. And she's into bonnets. Well, I'm saying she's into bonnets. Her mum's into bonnets. So this is a bonnet. I'm knitting a really traditional little bonnet, with the button under strap. It's a pattern I've had, God, must be about 30-year-old, because I think I can remember knitting my eldest niece it, and she's 30 plus. She's got her own children, and it's this one. I've knit this 100 times. So she got this one, and I knit it in, it's like a salmony pink, which our mum likes. She's very knit-worthy, my granddaughter. So I've got, oh, sorry, that's my phone. Actually, it's not really, will it show up? It's more pink than orange. It's not very good colour in here, actually, because I've had to put my main light on. So that's that one. The other thing I can show you, well, actually, when I say I haven't got very much on the needles, I've always got socks on the go, but I can justify that because I have to knit socks with the wool I get in for the shop. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they come in a pair. It's just one. But these will come in a pair. And this is my Sassy Socks Rock. This was part of my Christmas colourway. where this represents the fireworks that go off at New Year. I did a kit, and one of them was all pale greens and reds and browns and greens, and that was like vintage Christmas, and that was for the Christmas. And then I put this one in to pair it up, and this was for the fireworks that were popping as we see the new year in. And it's a British yarn. It's 100% BFL, hand dyed using acid dyes, and it's lovely. I've got this in a sock. I don't think I've got any sock blanks left with this actually, but it's really popular. And I always liked, when my girls, I've got 2 daughters and a son, when they help me dye, I always like to take one out and knit one up for them. So these ones are for Lucy, my daughter. She does all my graphics, and she keeps me right with the shop and my newsletter, and just keeps me right in general, in life really, not just about the shop, as do all my children. So that's it. Isn't that lovely? So colourful. And I've seen a few of these on Instagram that has been knit up, and actually there's no 2 skeins are the same, which is lovely, isn't it? So there's that one, and that's just a plain vanilla with a heel flap and 60 stitch count. My standard star toe. I like the star toe because in all the years I've knit, I can never remember how to do the Kitchener thing, so it's much easier if I just do the star toe. And then and they're on my higher highs. Well, I think these are higher highs, but they're so sharp, aren't they? Goodness me. I always count that I've got the right. My friend from Knit Group, she sat on one of her needles, and goodness me, she could really have hurt herself. Well, she did hurt herself, but there was no, she didn't need any hospital treatment or anything like that, and it healed up really well and what have you. But it could have been really awful for her. The other one, well, this one is all my designs. I'm bringing out, oh, excuse me, I haven't brought a drink up. I don't, the reason I didn't was because when you see everybody on podcasts, they always seem to drink posh coffee. Now, I don't drink posh coffee. I'm a real, Nescafe girl, and the poshest I get with coffee is if it's a decaf, a full calf, and I can drink, posh coffee, as my kids call it, but there's nothing like, I love my Nescafe coffee. I don't do cheap coffee, but I do like Nescafe. Well, I was saying that, I've just discovered Costa. My daughter was in hospital a few weeks ago, and me and my other daughter went downstairs to get a coffee, and I'm not one for Costa, but I discovered honeycomb lattes. Oh my word. I made a song and dance about having skim milk. I wanted a skim milk decaf honeycomb latte, but I wanted Lashens of cream, which contradicted the skimmed milk. But then I thought, oh well, it's better than having full fat milk with cream, isn't it? And then I found out skim milk just takes the fat out, but they add sugar to it. So I thought, well, who am I to complain? So anyway, these are all my socks. I won't show them too closely because these are all going to come out in after Christmas. I'm going to bring, it's going to be a pattern, and it's going to have 4 designs on. Oh, it's not very good colour, is it? Sorry, I'll move this. It's going to have 4 designs on. So it's all going to be the same mechanics. So it'll be the same stitch count, the same heel flap, the same finish, but the patterns are going to be the same because I just decided that, the price we'll pay for a pattern, and I've kept it very short. There's no more, I think, than about 8 pattern rows. And I thought, do you know, I'll just put them all on, and everybody can pick and choose. There will be stuff at the back with other heels. I love the Fish Lips Kiss heel. That's another one because I can always remember what that is. So, and this is another one. Now, this yarn is it Groomy, the Bergeret de France? I got this last year when I was in Edinburgh, and that was lovely. I did try to stock this, but the quantity you have to buy, I couldn't really justify using that much of my budget up, because as I say, I keep things very low key, and I didn't want to saturate my stock with all one kind. I have a tendency, I have lots of different brands, but more often than not I'll just have like 2 or 3 of one shade, and that means I can take it down. That's why I decided to start dyeing my wool, because when you buy wool from indie dyers for your shop, you have to buy so much, and to be honest, some of the wool I've bought from indie dyers hasn't sold, because and quite rightly, you can get that from them independently at fairs. And it's beautiful, and it sells slowly, but I don't like to have that much stock in my shop. This is another one I'm knitting. Now this is just a plain vanilla, and this is one of my hand-dyed wool. I think this is Tin Soldiers in the shop, and I decided to do an opal heel. No, an opal, yeah, the opal heel using the Celebrations 20 years. But then I forgot to change it back, so the foot's the same as well. And these are for my son, and he's got massive feet. So he'll get these at some point. I don't think he's in a rush for them. So I'll knit, these are for him when I get around to giving them. Oh, well, when I get around to knitting the other one, really. The other sock I've got in here, well, I do have quite a bit, don't I? But I don't even know if I've got my other one. No, I haven't got my other one. Well, that's annoying. Where could that have gone? Anyway, it's in this, which is I think it's peach melba. I can't remember what I put it in. That's shocking, isn't it? But it is in the shop, so you can find it in the shop. And that's in my bag. This is a Rowan fabric that I bought from Liberties. I bought a metre of it. Well, the kids bought me a metre of it for my birthday. So I decided to make one of my bags. I do love making bags. But this one is mine. As is this one. This one I made. And this was hand dyed. This bag was hand dyed. It was a blanket that was my grandma Lizzie's, and I don't even know how I happened to have it, but I think when I moved down here I wrapped some stuff up in a trunk, and it's always been in the bottom of the trunk, and you don't use woolen blankets now, so I cut it up, and I've made lots of bags, and I've appliqued them all, and they're all different colours. My final thing on the go is another test knit. Now this is which is the Mabel shawl. Now this is going to be released probably, I'm thinking, in the next few weeks. It's just been test knit by my friend Emma up in Chester. So I sent the wool off to her last week. But you know, I'm very laid back about it. I'll get it when I get it, and if it, you know, it's been had a tech edit, and I just thought I'll knit it up in this and see what it looks like in a different colour. And this is using the Fibre Company yarn from in the Cumbria fingering. And this is Purple Moor, or Moorgate, Purple Moorgate, I think. Yeah, I'm dreadful with names. But they're mere. So that's what they are. And they're on my zings. I haven't got a favourite needle. Although I do like Chowgies, but then, you know, I usually use zings, so I do that. So that's all I have on my needles, which I'm really quite thrilled about. I always think I've got so much more and what have you, and come January, I've decided I'm going to have a stash attack where I won't buy any more wool, and I just break the bulk of what I've got in, because it sits uncomfortably with me having so much wool and what have you. Some of the wool I've got that I've had for about a year, 2 years, I'm quite good. If I've realised after a year and a half I'm not going to knit it, I actually give it away, and I give it to people that I know will genuinely use it, regardless of what I paid for it, because it's just gluttony, really, isn't it? I've decided part of the thrill for me is thinking, I'm going to knit this. Oh, let's go to the shop and have a look what wool I can get to come home and knit it. And I found that when I would look in my stash box and think, oh God, I've got to knit that now. It really is not. It's not shouting out at us. I'll just go and get new stuff. you know, and I'll go off get new stuff, and then I'll spend the whole time knitting me new thing. Think me, goodness me, I should have used the other one. But that is me. That is the way I think. Nobody else has to think that. That is just the way I think of it. The other thing I don't like is spending a lot of money on to knit something that is a quick knit. Because whilst I'm very wealthy when it comes to time, I like to watch me pennies with me knitting because it is a hobby. It is my hobby, so I don't like to... I think it stems back to when my husband was at uni and we got married. We didn't have the money for me to go out and spend money on, you know, buy 50 quid's worth of wool and it just sit there till I decided I wanted to knit it. It was always like, right, I've finished what I've got on the needles, let's go out and get other wool. And I'm not criticising anybody who goes out, because, you know, being all bones about it, I've got a very healthy stash up there and in this cupboard. So it's a little, but it's sitting uncomfortably with me at the minute. So that's where Stash Attack is going to come in, whether it be on the form of in my needles or giving it away. It's going to try and get finished. I've even decided I'm not going to Edinburgh Yarn Festival this year, because some of this, well, the majority of the stuff I bought from there last year I haven't even touched, and I think, no, it'll kill me not going, mind, but I'm not. And the other thing I'm having in January is an Ipswich to Felixstowe knitting cal. And anyone can join in. It's going to be for any accessory. Well, actually, it can be anything, really. But I've just decided to call it Ipswich to Felixstowe. There's a very lovely painting. Again, it's gone out of my mind who it's by. But it lives in Christchurch Mansion, which is a big mansion that's in the middle of Christchurch Park, which is a town that's central to Ipswich, and it's a beautiful town. It's free to get in, and every day when I walk the dog in that, well, not every day I walk the dog, but when I walk the dog in that park, I always think how lucky are we to have such a lovely place that's free to visit. Anyway, this painting is in Christchurch Park, and it's a woman sitting on a bus, the Ipswich to Felixstowe bus. So that's what I'm going to be hosting in January, along with Stash Attack. So please feel free to join in. The more the merrier. It's not going to be a formal cal. It's just going to be a bit of fun. It's always about the fun when it comes to knitting, because knitting is fun, and it's a hobby, it's relaxing, it's my place of peace. That's the only way I can describe it. You know, if things are a bit angsty, I can knit and just completely lose myself. I can listen to what's going on around me. But I often say to my husband, on my headstone, I think you should have written, I'm listening, I'm just not looking. Because normally when he's talking, I'm sitting knitting away. You know, but he's used to it. I've been with him long enough that he should be used to it. I mean, when I first was with my husband, project bags weren't invented. I just used a Prestos bag or a co-op bag. How they've evolved. Not as cheap, though. Anyway, so that's my first podcast. It's starting to get a bit dusk here, actually, and I've got to walk into town to get something for tea, because I daresn't mention another takeaway this week. So I have to pretend I'm a domestic goddess. I give my front door a spray furniture polish so that when my husband walks through, it smells like I've been doing the housework all day. But he's new to that one. He's not new to that one. So I hope you've enjoyed me rambling on. Not too much rambling going on. And you join me again on when I get round to doing another podcast, which will probably be after Christmas. But in the meantime, till my next one, stay safe, stay happy, and keep on knitting. Bye.